My name's Tom. I'm 52 years old. For 11 years, I lived in a beige house in a Denver suburb with Ashley and her two daughters, Haley and Jenna. We never got married. Her choice, not mine. I asked once, maybe twice. She said marriage was just paper, that we were fine as we were. But fine has a smell. Like slow mold in the baseboards, like stale coffee in a sink that no one bothers to rinse. You don't notice it at first. Then one day it's all you can smell. Still, I stayed. I paid the mortgage. Every month, without fail. It wasn't even in my name. Her ex had bought the place back when they were still trying to play family. But when he left the debt behind. And she handed me the keys like it was a kindness. Just until I get on my feet, she said. That was the lie we both agreed on. A fiction carved out of need. I did more than pay the bills. I rebuilt the deck after a hailstorm split the planks. I patched drywall, retiled the upstairs bathroom, installed blackout curtains in Jenna's room when she said the sun gave her migraines. I shoveled the drive in winter and weeded the garden in spring. I fixed the dishwasher twice, replaced the furnace. I bought the good cereal, the kind with almonds and dried strawberries. I filled the fridge before anyone noticed it was empty. They never noticed. Not really. Haley and Jenna were 13 and 15 when I met them. They're in their 20s now, fully grown. But if you ask them who I am, they'll still shrug and say, just my mom's boyfriend. 11 years, a third of their lives. And I'm still a footnote. I never forced the word dad. Never even hinted at it. I knew better. Their real father, David, left when Jenna was 9. He calls once a year, maybe. Sends a card with the wrong birth date or a $50 Amazon gift card. But that doesn't matter. He's still dad. The word hangs in the house like a framed picture. Untouched. Undusted. Revered. I was never dad. I was the man who showed up. Parent-teacher nights, emergency room visits, lost retainers, fender benders, panic attacks before final exams. I was there. I filled out every line on every form that asked for an emergency contact. I sat through school plays with a stiff back and clapped when they forgot their lines. I drove 6 hours round trip to pick up Jenna from college after she broke up with her boyfriend. I didn't ask questions. I just brought her home and kept quiet. They only spoke to me when they needed something. Money, mostly, but sometimes rides. Sometimes help with forms they didn't understand, or broken car locks, or late-night calls when they forgot their keys. I answered every time, even when I was tired, even when I had work in the morning. They never said thank you. Not once. There were birthdays. I tried. Always a gift carefully chosen. Once, a vintage camera for Haley, she'd been into photography that year. Once, a spa weekend for Jenna and her best friend. She cried and said it was too much, but still went. I never got a hug. Just a nod. Maybe a forced smile. They left the receipts on the counter like trash. I remember one Christmas, maybe 5 years in, I surprised them with a trip to San Diego. Airfare, hotel, beach passes, aquarium tickets. Ashley was thrilled. The girls barely looked up from their phones. Jenna asked if she could invite her boyfriend. Haley rolled her eyes and said she hated the ocean. I thought maybe I had misjudged the age, that they were still in the moody phase. But that same mood calcified with time, hardened into something more deliberate. Once, Jenna spilled milk all over the kitchen floor. I asked her to grab a towel and clean it up. She looked at me like I was a stranger in her house. "You're not my dad," she said, slow and clear. Ashley was right there. I waited for her to say something. Anything. She didn't. Just chuckled and said, "She's hormonal. Let it go. Let it go." That was Ashley's answer to everything. To broken rules, to silence at dinner, to Haley skipping class, to the way the girls treated me like a waiter they never tipped. "They'll grow out of it," she'd whisper. "They'll come around." But they didn't. Not at 13. Not at 17. Not at 20. They grew harder. More entitled. More convinced that the roof over their heads came from nowhere. There were days when I felt like a ghost in that house. I'd come home from a 10-hour shift and find the living room littered with their friends, their bags, their shoes, music blasting. No one looked up. I was invisible until the Wi-Fi went out or the takeout didn't show up. Then it was Tom, can you fix it? Tom, can you order something? Tom, can you Venmo me real quick? I did. Every time. One night, I found Jenna crying in her room. She'd failed a class. She said she didn't want her mom to find out. I sat beside her on the floor, said it would be okay. I talked to Ashley, smooth it over, help her retake the course. She leaned on my shoulder for a minute, maybe the only moment of closeness we ever had. Then her phone buzzed, and she stood up, wiped her face and walked out. Didn't say goodbye. Ashley called me reliable. That was her word for me. Said it like a compliment, like it was a prize to be steady and predictable. But no one falls in love with a utility bill. No one respects the man who just shows up. They expect it. They take it. That was my job, to be expected. I tried to talk to Ashley once. Asked her if she noticed how cold they were with me. She sighed. Said, "It's hard for them, you know? You're not their father." No, I wasn't. But I was the one who paid for their clothes, their phones, their damn orthodontist. I was the one who stayed up when they were late, who sat in the car outside of football games because they didn't want me walking them in, who carried their groceries, who cleaned up after their messes. Their real father sent postcards. There were holidays when they'd disappear mid-dinner to FaceTime him. Ashley didn't blink. Didn't seem to notice the way I'd sit there with a half-cut ham and a cooling plate, listening to their laughter through the walls while I sipped wine I bought for the table they never thanked me for setting. Sometimes I wondered if Ashley noticed me disappearing. Not physically, I never left, but piece by piece. The man I was when I moved in, full of hope and effort, a little nervous but eager to belong, that man dissolved year by year, eroded by their silence, their disregard, and by hers. The worst moments weren't the fights. We didn't have many. What we had was worse. Dismissal. Neglect in polite clothing. A house full of people who learned to speak around me, who perfected the art of pretending I wasn't there. And still I stayed. I stayed because I believed effort counted. That one day they'd look back and say, "He was there. He showed up." That they'd remember the birthdays, the road trips, the bills I paid when no one else could. But now, looking back, I see the truth. You can't earn love from people who don't think you're owed anything in the first place. Respect doesn't bloom in houses where silence is rewarded. And sacrifice means nothing when the people you're sacrificing for never asked you to stay. They just let you. They let you drown with a smile on their face. It happened on a Thursday. A warm afternoon, blue sky pressed against the windows like a promise. Ashley's grandmother was turning 80, and the whole family came out. Cousins from Loveland, uncles from Pueblo, a few old church friends. The kind of people who wear denim jackets to dinner and laugh too loud. I grilled steak, helped set up the folding tables, hauled chairs from the garage. I was happy to do it. I always was. We set the food out under a rented canopy, buffet style, and someone plugged in a Bluetooth speaker that cycled through 80s hits while paper plates wilted under deviled eggs and pasta salad. People laughed, drank. I watched Ashley work the crowd, smiling in that way she saved for other people. The girls looked polished, distant, scrolling their phones like they were enduring a chore. I poured drinks, offered napkins, made small talk. Most of them didn't know me, or if they did, they'd forgotten. 11 years, and I was still introduced as Ashley's friend Tom. Sometimes partner. Never stepdad. Never family. Just a man who hovered helpfully at the edge of the frame. Then came the toast. Ashley's uncle had said a few kind words. Something about resilience and the power of women. He lifted his red Solo cup. People clapped. Someone elbowed me, nodded toward the folding table. "Say something," he grinned. I hesitated just for a second. I thought, why not? A small gesture. A moment to say something nice. Not for me, for Ashley's grandmother. The matriarch. The only one who'd ever called me son in passing. I stood. Jenna snorted before I opened my mouth. Loud enough for the whole group to hear. She said, "He's just a dumb stepdad. You're nothing to us." The words hit like gravel in the throat. A few people laughed. Cousin choked on their drink. Someone said, "Jesus, Jenna." But they were still smiling. Ashley didn't speak, didn't frown, didn't flinch, just stared at the plastic tablecloth like it had answers in the folds. I looked at her, waited. She did nothing, so I smiled. Just a small one, the kind you give when you realize you're done pretending. I put down my drink, stepped away from the table, walked across the lawn, through the side gate, and got in my truck. I didn't speed. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say a single word. The silence was louder than anything I could have screamed. The drive home was quiet. Windows down. Music off. Just the wind and the thought. I've been a fool. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes before I went inside. The house was empty. I could still smell the lemon cleaner from the morning. I walked through each room, one by one. Haley's room was a wreck. Clothes piled like sediment. Jenna's was neater. Posters aligned. Makeup scattered across the vanity I'd assembled. Ashley's was untouched. Frozen. Like a catalog spread. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the dresser mirror. Not at my reflection, I'd stopped recognizing that a while ago, but at the pictures taped along the edge. Haley and Jenna at prom. At graduation. Holding coffee cups with their friends. Photos I'd taken. Trips I'd paid for. Memories I wasn't allowed to claim. That night, I began the quiet work of disappearance. First, the finances. The utilities were all in my name: electricity, internet, gas, water, trash. I canceled them in silence. Each website asked, "Are you sure?" I clicked yes without blinking. The phone plan gone. The insurance coverage removed. Streaming services shut down. Haley's car insurance. Jenna's dental plan. The Amazon Prime they used like oxygen. One by one, the threads unraveled. I left the mortgage untouched. Just for now. But the message was clear. I'm not holding this house together anymore. The next morning, I made coffee and waited. No one came home that night. I didn't text. Didn't ask where they were. Didn't check Ashley's location like I used to. Just watched the clock crawl past midnight and listened to the sound of nothing. Day 2, they returned. I was outside when they pulled into the driveway. Haley slammed her door. Jenna was already shouting. "There's no Wi-Fi," she barked as she entered. "And the heat's off. What the hell is going on?" Ashley was quieter. She looked tired. Her mascara had smeared under her eyes. "The girls' phones aren't working," she said. "And I tried to schedule Jenna's doctor appointment. The card was declined." "Tom, what's happening?" I sipped my coffee. I stopped playing the part. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a different language. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "you can't mock the hand that feeds you and expect it to keep feeding you." Haley scoffed. "You're seriously doing this over one joke?" "It wasn't a joke," I said. "It was the truth, wasn't it? I'm nothing to you, so now I act like nothing." Jenna crossed her arms. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm listening. For once, I'm actually listening to what you've been saying for years." Ashley's voice cracked then. "But the bills, the car, the school, they need you." I looked at her. Really looked. "No," I said. "They needed the man they disrespected. He's gone." The house unraveled quickly after that. 2 days in, Jenna missed her endocrinologist appointment. The reminder came, but the car didn't start. Her battery had been failing for weeks. I'd warned her. She said she'd get around to it. I used to step in. Not anymore. Haley couldn't access her university portal. Her email was linked to the phone plan, which was canceled. She missed her exam window. I heard her crying in the upstairs bathroom. The water ran for hours. Ashley kept trying to patch the holes, borrowing chargers, asking neighbors for Wi-Fi passwords, calling her own parents, who were long retired and offered sympathy, not solutions. And then the real dad called. David, the ghost. He hadn't spoken to the girls in over a year, but somehow he heard. Maybe Jenna reached out. Maybe Ashley. I didn't ask. He called me directly. That surprised me. "Hey," he said. "I heard things are tense. I just want you to know I'll be there for them." Emotionally. I nearly laughed. Financially? I asked. He paused. Long enough for me to hear his answer before he spoke it. I'm between jobs, he said. But I'll check in more. Be present. You know? No, I didn't know. He never called again. I watched from a distance as the cracks widened. Jenna started borrowing clothes from friends. Haley began skipping class altogether. The house got colder, literally and figuratively. Blankets piled on the couch. Candles lit instead of lamps. They kept expecting me to cave, to return to form. But I was done performing. A week later, Jenna asked Ashley if she could borrow the debit card for gas. I was in the room. Ashley looked at me, hesitated, then handed it over. I didn't say anything, because by then it didn't matter. Prom came. Jenna wore a borrowed dress. A pale blue thing that hung loose at the shoulders. Her date showed up in an ill-fitting suit. There was no limo, no hairstylist, no photos. She stood in front of the hallway mirror, blinking hard to keep her eyeliner from running. I didn't say a word, didn't offer a ride. She called a friend's mom. Ashley watched from the staircase. She whispered, "We could have done more." I didn't look at her, just said, "I did, for 12 years. She's still a kid," she said. I turned to her then, voice low. "No, she's who we raised, someone who thinks love is free." Ashley's mouth opened, then closed. That night, after the girls were asleep, she sat beside me on the couch. She reached for my hand. I didn't take it. She said, "They miss you." I said, "No, they miss what I gave them." She said nothing after that. And in that silence, I felt the last thread snap. The silence didn't last. 2 days after prom, Haley exploded. She slammed the bedroom door so hard a picture frame fell in the hallway. I picked it up. A photo of the girls on the beach in Santa Monica. Ages ago, long before the frost set in. I paid for that trip. They never thanked me. I placed the frame on the counter and waited. She came stomping out in pajamas, mascara still smudged from the night before. "You're abandoning this family?" she spat, standing at the edge of the kitchen like the floor was lava. "No," I said, turning from the sink. I stopped pretending I was part of it. Jenna joined in. Her voice wasn't angry at first, just confused. "You always helped. You always said we could count on you." I nodded. "And then you told me I wasn't your dad. So I listened." Ashley entered next, the triangle complete. Her hair was wet, twisted in a towel, face bare of makeup. "They're scared, Tom," she said quietly. "Everything's changing. They feel it." "They should," I replied. "Change is the consequence of truth." She crossed her arms. "Is this revenge? You're punishing them?" I shook my head. "I'm obeying them. They told me I don't matter. I'm finally agreeing." It was then that Jenna's voice cracked. "We didn't mean it." "No?" I asked. "Then why did you keep saying it?" They went silent. That afternoon, Jenna called David again. I heard her through the wall, her voice low, pleading, then rising. "Please, just a few hundred. I can't even get to work." A pause. "You said you'd help. You said, Dad? Hello?" Silence. She didn't cry. Not then. Just sat at the edge of her bed staring at the wall. The phone still in her hand, screen dark. David never called back. 2 days later, I got a text from Ashley. "The girls need new tires. They're unsafe." I responded, "I know. I warned them 6 months ago." No reply. That evening, Haley called Ashley from a gas station. The card declined. She had a half tank and no cash. I didn't pick up when they tried my number. Let them sit in the quiet I knew so well. They started selling things. Jenna listed clothes on Poshmark. Haley tried to sell her tablet. Ashley pawned a necklace I bought her for our 3rd anniversary. Silver, custom engraved. I saw it on the pawn shop's website, still shining under fluorescent lights. I didn't say anything. At night, the house got louder. Doors slammed. Arguments sharpened. Whispered plans and raised voices clashed like storms behind drywall. Ashley approached me one night, her voice softer. "You could help them. You still could." I looked her in the eyes. I did. For 12 years. They're still kids. No, I said. They're the adults we trained them to be. She blinked. You're being cruel. No. Cruelty was allowing them to think they could spit on me and still drink from my hands. She said nothing. She walked away. The girls began to realize the house didn't run on love. It ran on labor, on effort, on unspoken contributions. Things they never saw until they vanished. The fridge was emptier. The heat was lower. The repairs stopped happening. A crack in the living room ceiling widened day by day. I stared at it every morning over coffee. Let it grow. One day, Haley tried to cook and tripped the circuit. The microwave and stove died. She screamed. I didn't move. Tom! She shouted. It's broken. I didn't look up. So fix it. She stood frozen, then stormed out. Later, I saw her Googling how to reset circuit breaker on her phone. She got it wrong. The microwave never came back. Ashley stopped cooking. We ate separately. She microwaved frozen meals in the girls' rooms. I made eggs and toast in the morning, then left. Dinner became silence. No plates, no grace. One night, Jenna knocked on my door. Just a tap. I opened it. She stood there with a notepad. I've been applying to jobs, she said. Part-time. I'm trying. I nodded. Okay, she said. That's all. She left. No apology. Just a fact, offered like an olive branch with no leaves. Ashley started staying out late. Claimed it was work. I knew it wasn't. She began dressing different. Shorter skirts. Stronger perfume. She'd come home at midnight, shoes in hand, cheeks flushed. I said nothing. She wanted me to ask. I refused. I wasn't her keeper. I wasn't anything anymore. One Saturday, I overheard Jenna crying. Hard sobs. Not performative. Gut level. I hate this, she said. Everything's broken. Everything's falling apart. Haley replied. He's trying to teach us a lesson. No, Jenna said. He's showing us who really held this house up. The words echoed in me. Not with pride, but grief. They were beginning to see the shape I'd carved into the home. The man they erased had always been the scaffolding. Now they were standing in ruins, wondering why the walls groaned. A week later, Ashley tried again. You're making your point. They get it. We all get it. Can we move forward? I asked her one question. Just one. Do you respect me? She looked away, didn't answer, and that told me everything. I packed on a Sunday, early morning, before the girls woke up, before Ashley could offer another hollow olive branch. I didn't leave in a rage. I wasn't loud. I didn't make a show of it. Just folded my shirts, unplugged my chargers, zipped the duffel I'd used on every trip for the last decade, business and otherwise. I left the heavy tools in the garage. I didn't want them. I didn't want anything that tied me to that house, that family, that long experiment in silent humiliation. The note I left was brief. Not bitter. Just honest. You have everything you wanted now. Without me. I didn't lock the door behind me. I didn't look back. I drove north across Wyoming into Idaho. 2 states and 1,000 miles of silence. No calls. No texts. No guilt. The place I rented was modest. A cabin near a lake. Quiet enough to hear your own breath. With stove. 1 bedroom. A porch that creaked like old bones. I bought a second-hand kettle, 2 cast iron pans, and a shortwave radio I didn't need. I hung one picture. Me and my dog from before Ashley, before the girls, before the pretending. That dog died years ago. I still think about him more than most people I've met. The first week felt like a detox. Waking without obligation. Cooking without critique. Eating at a table where no one glared or scoffed or rolled their eyes. I started keeping lists, groceries, chores, books to read. Not because anyone expected it, but because structure felt like healing. I didn't speak to anyone except the clerk at the general store and the old man who ran the bait shop. He nodded once, then left me alone. I liked that. Ashley texted 4 days in. They miss you. I stared at the screen. It glowed like bait. No, I didn't reply. They didn't miss me. They missed what I did. what I paid for, what I prevented. The soft net that caught them when they leapt into mess after mess. They missed the role I played, not the man who played it. The next text came a week later. You proved your point. Can we talk? No, we couldn't, because it wasn't a point I made. It was a truth they uncovered, that I was never family. Just a donor. Time, money, patience, labor, all withdrawn. And now they were left holding the bills. The girls tried, eventually. Haley emailed me a vague apology. Something about misunderstanding, about youth, about pressure. Jenna sent a voicemail. Her voice wavered. I'm sorry. I should have treated you better. We were kids. I didn't know what you meant to the house. But they did know. They knew every time they ignored me. Every time they rolled their eyes when I walked in. Every time they whispered behind closed doors and went silent when I entered. They knew. The apology didn't reach me because it wasn't for me. It was for their own guilt, their own reckoning, their sudden confrontation with adulthood, with broken pipes, dead cars, bounced payments, lukewarm landlords, indifferent fathers. Ashley's last message came on the second month. You win. I didn't respond. This was never about winning. This was about surviving. About refusing to spend another decade being stepped on in the name of blended family. I had bent myself into quiet shapes for them, made myself small so they could stretch, fed them my time like it was infinite, and when I asked for the smallest return, a thank you, a trace of respect, they laughed. I walked away because staying would have made me something I hated. A man who knew he was being used and let it happen anyway. No more. I took a job at a local mechanics shop. Part-time, cash under the table, no titles, just wrench work and grease and the solid silence of men who fix what's broken without asking who broke it. I liked the routine. It reminded me that usefulness doesn't have to be martyrdom. Sometimes I drive to the lake. I sit on the dock and let the cold wind cut across my face. I think about the house, the girls, Ashley, not with anger that's burned off but with clarity, like smoke after fire. The wreckage is still there, but the heat is gone. They still text. Not often. Every few weeks. Can we talk? I heard you moved. Jenna's graduating soon. You'd be proud. Maybe I would be. Maybe not. I delete them all. I don't block them. That would mean I expect more. I don't. Because love without respect isn't love. The servitude. And I'm no one's servant anymore. Some nights I still dream of the house. Not the walls or the furniture. Just the feeling, that weight in the chest when I turned the key, knowing I'd walk into silence. Into girls who wouldn't look me in the eye. Into a woman who smiled at me like a roommate. Into a life that asked everything and returned nothing but dust. I wake up from those dreams and make coffee. Black, strong. I sit on the porch and let the sky widen above me. Here there are no demands. No closed doors. No ungrateful mouths calling me nothing. Just the creak of old wood. The smell of pine. The shape of my own life, finally my own. And I ask myself the same question I've asked since the day I walked out. Was I wrong? Was I wrong to step away? To pull the cord and let them feel the weight I carried? To say, enough, when no one else would? Or did I do what any man would do, when finally, he accepts that being present without being respected isn't noble? It's a slow death. You tell me,